So they're asking us to bring that that ecstatic oneness to everything around us and below us, and above, but all around, because all of the earth is filled with His glory. It's to see the sacredness, like Mikael, like the sword of Mikael, who asks the question, who is like God, and sees God everywhere in the essence, in the depth of everything. Well, that's the power of the second sentence. It gives us the power of this vision of Mikael. And so one more time. And then the second sentence, try to feel the God's self in all things, all around you, so, or within you. Here we go. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. Melo kol haaretz kvodo. You know, all of our major challenge in life is about overcoming the blockage in our lower chakra areas, frankly. When you need to do something or want to, and you're afraid or nervous or anxious, what goes on? It's your stomach area. Lower belly area, intestine area. What Kryon calls the lower belly area, he calls it the second brain. If these areas are not in harmony and in balance, well, there's not much of a high quality experience possible. And here's the thing. Most of our life, perhaps, we're working or we're trying to balance the second brain, to make it peaceful, harmonious. We get worried or afraid or anxious, and we lose it. And what do you do? What do you do? And it happens all the time. For most people, it's maybe a great part of their lives, or most of their lives, that they're just not in harmony and peace, and this area is out of kilter, or something happens, or they're going along fine, and then something happens, and then they lose it. They lose it, and I've seen like a phrase in old movies. They say, "Don't get your bowels in an uproar." Okay, or they also use the phrase intestinal fortitude. How many people have intestinal fortitude in the emotional sense? So this is like the key to life, to harmonize and balance this and bring it into the kind of love that the heart down below. So how do you do it? Well, there are all kinds of meditations, and they're all good, and sacred colors, and wonderful techniques. Meditation, as Yogananda said, is a key to happiness. But you also have this phrase, and this phrase says, well, the book, The Keys of Enoch says this phrase is a key to the transformation of man, with a capital M, by the way. So how is that so? And it must be this downward impressing of sacred energy, which is all throughout, especially the first sentence. The Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth. It's this impressing down and rising up as well, going up and going down. And that's how it could transform humanity, if we know the keys of the sounds and preferably the keys of the forms, the letters, the flame geometries from the mind of God. Sound is great, but looking at it, knowing the forms of the flame geometries, adds power. So, that's the key. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Adonai Savaot. Use it. Use it when you're out of balance. Use it when your lower chakras, when your bowels are in an uproar, when you lack intestinal fortitude. Use it because it's the very nature of it to bring the divine harmony and power and love into the very depths of our being. I'd like to talk just a little about the word written out here on my left. It's Hebrew right to left. The word is shemayim. Shemayim means heaven, but the structure of the word, very, very interesting. Because that first letter, the fiery three-tongued shin, represents fire. The second letter, which sort of looks like a rounded box, that represents, it's called mem, and it represents what's called mayim, which is water. And the first two letters together, they make the word Shem, which means name. And name is very, very important. You know, in Hebrew we say, we say Baruch Hashem, blessed is the name. The name is the fire and water balance, actually. That perfect balance, which we are. We are fire and we are water. And so this word, Shemayim, it means heaven, but when you think about it, it actually means fire and water, which is very interesting. Nassim Hariman, he talks in this amazing and humorous 8-hour teaching, he talks about that they've discovered great emissions coming from the sunspots. And almost all of the emissions, the sunspots on the sun, and almost all of the emissions are H2O, or water. So, I mean, that's quite amazing. Right next to all that fire, you have these black spots which are ejecting great amounts of H2O. So, the ancients somehow knew it, or the star civilization that left this language, they certainly knew it, that the Shemayim is the Shemayim. It's the fire and water balance. Apparently it comes from other stars as well. And H2O is a very, very basic ingredient in the universe. And that's what the astronomers have discovered, that H2O is everywhere. The second part of the word, after the fire symbol, after the shin, says mayim, the mem, which represents water, and the final mem, also representing it. Mayim, like a drop of mayim, it's sort of like this closed system somehow, like a crystal. And but what's very interesting are the two small letters in between the two yods, which represent 1, 10th letter, and that spark of creation, the tiniest letter, that spark, which in the yod is completely connected with God, as is the shin, the first letter. So the mayim, God, Yod Yod, what you have the two Yods in the middle of Mayim, that's a way of writing Adonai, or Yehovah, or what we say Adonai. And those two Yods, in the middle of the Mem and the Mem, it's like they're saying God. God is the secret ingredient in the water, which I'm sure is the case. And the Shin here, well, that's a great symbol for God, El Shaddai. Like I said, it's on the mezuzot. It's on the tefillin of the men that they wear, and so the Shaddai is also. So, very interesting. Fire and water, symbols of God. It's expressed so beautifully in this language. And that's the idea of a living library. Fire and water. We go about our lives never really thinking about it very much. But it's a talisman. Fire and water, like all of nature, like the 5 sacred languages and their letters, are divine talismans that, if we endeavor to merge with them, we can access and change ourselves, change our biorhythms, our chemistry. And I'd like to talk a little more about these concepts of sacred talismans. Sacred talismans. You know, there are negative talismans as well. And they're used in a way that's not, of course, sacred at all. Our culture creates these talismans. We create them with our concepts and our words, and these negative talismans affect us negatively. The word, for instance, shit. Okay? Well, what our culture has done, or you could say fuck, or you could say dick, or cunt, or whatever it is, what's happening here is people are feeding these symbols, which are in themselves sacred. They're feeding them with negative meaning. And so, even if we're just new to the country, new to the language, or new to the world as an infant, some of this negativity will radiate out for them. And as we go on in years, it could build more and more negative power as we hear these words and these as this imbuing of energy grows stronger and stronger. And it's like a negative imprinting, a negative programming that keeps us small, that keeps us wounded. Another example, the English, they use the word bloody a lot. It's a bloody mess, or you bloody bastard. They're taking the very sacred symbol of blood, which is the life, according to the Torah, and the most sacred thing, and they're turning it into, well, we all do it, a negative talisman. The idea of dirt has been turned into a negative talisman. Darkness, the word black, they've all been infused by people for a long time. And I mean, the darkness is sacred. The darkness is the old. Darkness came before the light, and so created the light in a way. But the darkness, the sacred darkness, is filled with love, which is also light.